In the far corner of the galaxy, there was a planet called Serena 9. The Galactic Union had listed it as a paradise world. Warm sun, clear skies, fresh air, no war, no known predators, just forests, lakes, and flowers. Everyone thought it was perfect, but something didn't add up. 3 alien survey teams were sent to explore Serena 9 over the years. All of them disappeared. No distress signals, no bodies, just silence. The Galactic Union stopped talking about it. Some said the planet was cursed. Others believed it was just bad luck. Then Earth joined the Union. The aliens laughed when humans asked to visit Serena 9. Humans, they joked, you come from a death world. Your planet is full of storms, fire, and predators. You think you can handle paradise? But humans were curious and stubborn, so a team of humans was finally sent. It was small, only 6 people. Leading them was Commander Rigg, a strong, quiet man with scars on his face and eyes that had seen war. Alongside him was Dr. Lin, a young female scientist with sharp eyes and a calm voice. The rest of the team included 2 engineers and 2 soldiers. Their ship, the Sol Runner, landed in a wide green field. The sky above them was purple-blue, filled with slow-moving clouds. The air was warm and smelled like sweet fruit. Trees swayed gently in the breeze. A river sparkled nearby. It looked like a painting. This place is beautiful, Dr. Lin said, stepping out of the ship. Commander Rigg didn't smile. Stay alert. The humans set up camp quickly. They unpacked scanners, solar panels, and weapons. Everything felt calm, too calm. The grass under their feet was soft, too soft. It moved slightly when they stepped on it like it was reacting. One of the soldiers, Private Ramos, joked, "This grass feels like it's hugging me." That night, the team sat around a fire. The stars above were bright and silent. "I don't get it," said one engineer. "Why did the alien teams vanish? There's no danger here. Maybe they just got tired of paradise." Ramos laughed. But at midnight, something changed. Private Ramos was on guard duty. He walked around the camp slowly, holding his rifle, whistling softly to himself. The wind was light. The trees swayed. Then he heard a whisper. It sounded like a child. A small voice saying, "Help me." He turned, flashlight raised. "Hello? Who's there?" The voice came again. "Please, help." Ramos followed the sound, moving away from camp into the trees. His flashlight flickered. The voice sounded weak, scared, exactly how a human child would sound. He stepped deeper into the forest. The trees were thick, the shadows long. He raised his rifle, heart pounding. Then nothing, silence. No voice, no sound, just cold air. Back. At the camp, Commander Rigg woke with a feeling in his chest. Something was wrong. He looked at the empty guard post. Ramos was gone. "Get up," he ordered. "Weapons ready." The team searched. They found Ramos's footprints, leading into the trees. 20 meters in, they found his boots. Just boots, still standing, like someone had been wearing them. But inside, only blood. Dr. Lin stared at them, pale. What kind of creature takes everything? Except the boots? Commander Rigg looked at the trees. They were moving again, but there was no wind. "Back to the ship," he ordered. They returned, to camp quickly, but something had changed. The grass was higher. The vines on the ship had grown, fast. One vine had wrapped around a solar panel and pulled it down. No one had noticed before. "Cut them off," the engineer shouted. They hacked at the vines with knives. Green liquid spilled out like blood. "What kind of plant grows this fast?" Dr. Lin whispered. Commander Rigg's voice was hard. "Not a plant. A predator." The next morning, the sun rose slowly. The field looked calm again. The vines had pulled back. The air was still sweet. But the team had learned something important. This planet was not empty. It was not peaceful. It was watching them and waiting. Commander Rigg stood at the edge of the field, staring into the forest. "They called this paradise," he said. but something here wants us dead. The morning after Ramos vanished, the jungle looked calm again. Too calm. The vines had retreated. The grass stood still. The air smelled sweet, like honey and flowers. If someone had arrived now, they'd think it was heaven, but the humans knew better. Commander Rigg stood near the boots, the only thing Ramos left behind. His jaw was tight, eyes scanning the trees. Whatever took him. It's smart, he said, and it hunts at night. Dr. Lin knelt beside the grass. She touched it gently and frowned. It's not just alive, it's aware. This whole planet might be one living system. The second soldier, Sergeant Kane, growled, I don't care if it's 1 brain or 100. If it touches me, I'll burn it. They started moving deeper into the forest to search for Ramos, or what was left of him. That's when they saw it. A clearing ahead, wide and open, and in the center a strange round object. It was a helmet. Not human. Not even recent. Dr. Lin's eyes widened. That's from the last alien team. This is real. They moved closer, then froze. Around the helmet were bones, gray and brittle, long, twisted, half buried in roots. But the skeletons were smiling, wide grins frozen on their skulls like they had died laughing. What the hell happened to them? The engineer whispered. Dr. Lin looked around nervously. I think the planet calms you. It makes you feel safe. It hides its danger under beauty. A sleeping trap, Rigg muttered. Suddenly the forest groaned. A loud creaking sound came from above. The trees were moving, not swaying in the wind, but shifting together, like walls closing in. The sun vanished behind thick leaves. The shadows grew deep. Then from the trees something fell. It was long, green, slimy, and it moved fast. A vine whipped across the clearing, grabbing the engineer by the ankle. Help! He screamed, falling. Rigg was faster. He fired 3 shots. The vine shrieked like metal bending and pulled back into the trees. The team dragged the engineer back. His leg was bleeding. It burned me, he cried. The vine burned me. Dr. Lin grabbed her scanner. The reading shocked her. These plants, they react to sound, heat, even heartbeats. They choose their prey. The forest made another sound. Not wind. Not animals. Breathing. It felt like the jungle was exhaling around them. The humans ran back to camp. That night, no one slept. Lights surrounded the ship. Guns were loaded. Dr. Lin pored over samples under a microscope. These aren't just plants, she said. They have nerve tissue, muscle fibers, and this fluid, she held up a vial of glowing green, is like acid and perfume mixed. It burns skin, but also calms the brain. Makes you slow. Ramos heard a voice, Rigg said. The jungle called him. She nodded. Like bait. It mimics pain. Or children. Whatever gets your attention. Suddenly the motion sensor beeped. Something was outside. The soldiers aimed their rifles. The scanner showed movement, fast, circling the camp. One of the lights flickered, then died. Then the whisper came again. Help me. But this time it came from 3 directions at once. Don't move, Rigg shouted. They held position, finger on triggers, hearts pounding. Then, crash. A massive tree limb fell, slamming into the edge of camp, breaking a metal crate. Vines slithered behind it, like snakes in the dark. Kane threw a flare. The jungle lit up in red, and they saw them. Dozens of vines, some thick as arms, some covered in thorns. All moving, reaching, grasping. It's a full attack, Rigg yelled. Guns opened fire. Flames from the flare caught a dry bush, setting it ablaze. The vines hissed and pulled back. One burned, curling up like a dying animal. Fire, Rigg said. They hate fire. They hate. Kane lit up 2 more flares and threw them. The jungle screamed, a high-pitched wail like metal and animals mixed. The vines retreated. The sounds faded. The team stood breathing hard, sweat pouring down. Dr. Lin looked into the jungle. It's testing us, studying us. Commander Rig wiped blood from his arm. Well, now it knows. We bite back. He stared at the trees, now quiet again. Tell the Union, this isn't a paradise. He looked down at the burned vines and whispered, coldly, this is a war zone. The next morning, the jungle was silent again, but not in a peaceful way. It felt like a hunter watching from the trees. The humans didn't trust the quiet anymore. Inside the camp, Dr. Lin was looking through her samples. These plants, they don't grow, they move. They're alive in a different way. They wait. They trap. Then they feed. She held up a tiny root. It twitched in her hand like a nervous finger. Sergeant Kane stepped back. That thing has nerves. It's like a nervous system and plant combined, she explained. It reacts to fear, blood, even brainwaves. Commander Rig stood near the fire pit, arms crossed. So the planet senses emotion? Lin nodded. Yes, most aliens come from calm, balanced worlds. They didn't survive here because they didn't understand fear. But humans, Rig said, turning to look at the forest. We were born in chaos. Commander Rig had been raised on Earth's old war zones, jungles crawling with fire ants, storms that tore houses apart. Dr. Lin had survived viral outbreaks during the ice decade in Asia. Kane had lost a brother to wildfires. They were used to suffering. Deathworlds built humans differently, and this planet didn't know that yet. The crew made a plan. They weren't going to run anymore. They were going to push back. First, they tested how the plants responded to human blood. Kane cut his hand just slightly and let a drop fall onto the grass. Nothing happened at first. Then vines started rising from the soil, from under his boots. He leapt back. Rig tossed a grenade. Boom! The vines exploded in green slime. Pieces. A flesh-like bark flew into the air. The forest screamed again. They smell us, Lin whispered. And they remember us, Rig smirked. Then they're about to learn a hard lesson. The team built a trap. They gathered wood, fuel, scrap metal, and fire sources from the ship. Lin mixed a flammable gel from local plant sap. They dug pits and coated the edges with spikes. Then they waited. At sunset, the trees began to whisper again. Low sounds, like breathing, but deeper. Then came the voices. Help. Me. Don't leave. Me. Dr. Lin clutched her scanner. Same voice patterns, same pitch. It's copying us. The sounds got louder, closer. Rig gave the signal. The team lit the traps. Flames burst into the night sky. Vines screamed and curled away. But this time, something new came. Figures. Tall, thin, bark-skinned creatures with glowing blue veins. They looked like trees with bones. One stepped into the firelight, stared at them, then raised a long hand. More stepped behind it. 10, 20, maybe more. Dr. Lin gasped. These aren't just plants. They're a species. Rig stepped forward. They're soldiers. Kane raised his weapon. So are we. The fight was fast and wild. The creatures attacked with whip-like arms. One soldier was struck across the chest. He flew back 5 meters. Rig shot 2 in the knees. They bled green mist. Lin threw one of her fire gel bombs. It exploded, burning 3 of the things alive. They wailed like crying children, but didn't stop moving. One creature tried to crawl into the camp. Rig used an axe. 1 hit, 2 hits. The creature fell apart into dust. The trap pits worked. 5 creatures fell inside, impaled by spikes. By dawn, the battle was over. The camp was a mess. Fire still burned. The ship had burn marks and acid scars. Kane's arm was broken. Lin had a cut across her cheek. But they were alive. And they had won. That morning, Lin looked at a burned vine and whispered, "This world was built to beat the weak." She looked around at the others, wounded, dirty, but standing. "We are not weak," she said. Commander Rig checked the perimeter. "The jungle is pulling back," she nodded. "It understands now. We're not prey. He looked up at the sky. The aliens laughed when Earth was called a Deathworld, but we were born on a planet where everything wants to kill you. He paused, and, somehow, we made it home. Now they were on a new world, but the rules were the same. Only the strongest survive. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. After sunrise, smoke still hung in the air. Burnt vines curled like dead snakes. The camp was quiet, but no one felt safe. Commander Rigg stood guard watching the forest. The trees didn't move, but he could feel them watching. Not like an animal, like something smarter. Patient. Planning. Sergeant Kane was bandaging his arm when he said, "We heard it last night, but it's not done." Dr. Lin was kneeling by one of the fallen bark creatures. Its body was stiff and hollow like a puppet. "This thing," she whispered, cutting a sample. "It's not just a living tree. It was being controlled. There's something bigger, something deeper." Rigg turned. "A hive mind?" She nodded slowly. "I think this entire jungle is one organism, one brain, using creatures like hands and vines like nerves." No one spoke. Later that day, their motion sensors detected movement, but nothing came close. It circled the camp, then stopped. Then circled again. It was testing them, watching. That night, Kane saw something glowing through the trees. Eyes, dozens, yellow, tall, silent. When he aimed his weapon, the eyes blinked and vanished. The next morning, Lin made a decision. "We need to go into the jungle," she said. "Not to run, not to fight, to understand." "Are you insane?" Kane asked. She held up a small scanner. "This planet copies us. It adapts. But if we find the center, the brain, we might find a way to shut it down, or talk to it." Commander Rigg thought in silence, then nodded. "Pack light. Move fast. Stay angry," he said. "Why angry?" asked Kane. Rigg didn't smile. "Because this world eats anything that relaxes." They left the camp and entered the deep jungle. The light faded fast. The trees grew taller. The air turned thicker, heavier. Even the ground felt warm like skin. Every step felt like walking on something alive. Hours passed. Then they saw it. A towering tree, black and smooth, unlike anything else on the planet. It stood in a circular clearing, alone. Vines pulsed from its base like veins. "This must be it," Lin whispered. "The core tree." As they approached, something strange happened. They started hearing voices. Real voices. From their past. "Lin, come home." She froze. "That's my mother's voice. She died years ago." Kane grabbed his gun. "I hear my brother. He's laughing." Rigg didn't say anything, but his fists clenched. This wasn't just sound. It was memory. The tree was reading their minds, digging into their emotions, showing them pieces of their own pain. "It's trying to make us weak," Lin said, "to stop us from thinking, from fighting." Suddenly the ground trembled. The bark of the tree split open. Inside was something glowing, a living brain-like core, red and gold, beating slowly like a heart. Then they heard it, not through their ears, but inside their minds. "Why do you burn me? You are like us, born from pain." Lin gasped. "It's communicating." The voice continued. Others came. They were soft, peaceful. I gave them peace. But you fight. You burn. You scream. You are fire. Commander Rigg stepped forward. "You killed them." They asked for comfort. I gave it. I quieted their pain. I made them still. Dr. Lin whispered, "You made them dead." "Peace is death," Rigg said coldly. "We choose life." The tree's voice grew louder, faster, more confused. "You are wrong. You are broken. You resist harmony." Rigg pulled a thermal grenade from his belt. "We resist control." He set the timer. "Run. They ran as fast as they could through the roots, the voices screaming louder, now full of fear. The ground shook behind them. Boom! The explosion roared through the jungle. Smoke and ash filled the air. Birds flew into the sky for the first time. They didn't look back. An hour later, they stopped near a stream. The scanner showed something shocking. The jungle was changing. The vine signals were weak. The pressure in the air was gone. "It's not dead," Lynn said, panting. "But we heard it. It knows what we are now." Commander Riggs stared into the distance. "And it'll think twice before calling humans soft. Again." Kane looked up. "What if it fights back harder?" Rigg loaded his rifle. "Then we remind it why we survived our own Deathworld." He looked at Lynn. "We're not guests here anymore." The jungle was quiet again, but this time, it wasn't peaceful. It was wounded. After the blast at the core tree, the sky above Serena 9 had changed. The clouds were darker. The wind was heavier. The birds, if there had ever been any, were gone. The humans sat near the stream, catching their breath. Commander Rigg checked the scanner. No movement. Sergeant Kane wiped sweat from his face. "That won't last. We heard it. Now it's angry." Dr. Lynn was typing into her tablet. "Something's changing. Look, this vine here." She pointed to a dying root. "It's disconnecting from the others, like it's being rejected." "Like a wounded finger," Kane said. "No," Lynn replied. "Like a failed soldier." They returned to camp before nightfall. But everything was different. The vines were gone. Even the grass had thinned. The jungle was pulling back. Like it was thinking. Commander Rigg walked through the half-burnt tents and shattered crates. "It's not retreating. It's reloading." That night, the stars returned for the first time. No clouds. No jungle mist. And then, the ground shook. A deep rumble rolled through the earth. The team stood. Weapons raised, lights flickered. The scanners went blank. And from the forest came the sound they feared most. Footsteps. Not vines, not whispers. But heavy synchronized footsteps marching in perfect rhythm. "What the hell is that?" Kane whispered. Then they saw it. Tall shapes. Dozens of them. Walking upright. Not plant. Not animal. Something new. They had arms, legs, bark skin, glowing chest cores, and human faces, copied from the team's own expressions. Dr. Lynn gasped. "It's evolving. It's building soldiers based on us." The figure stopped 10 meters from the camp. One stepped forward. Its voice sounded like Lynn's, exactly like hers. "We offered peace. You chose fire. Now, we return fire." Then chaos began. The jungle soldiers attacked fast. One leapt at Kane. He rolled, fired, and blew its shoulder off, but it kept crawling, sparks flying from its chest. Another one grabbed the engineer by the leg and lifted him in the air, its fingers squeezing like iron vines. Dr. Lynn tossed a fire capsule. It burst in white flame. The soldier dropped and screamed, but for every one that burned, 2 more came. The planet was no longer hiding. It was fighting like a death world. Commander Rigg grabbed a high-heat cutter from the wrecked ship and charged into the battle, slicing through one creature's spine. The bark cracked, revealing a liquid metal core. "They're not just alive," he shouted. "They're built." The forest had taken alien tech, plant matter, and human memory, and made war machines. In the middle of the fight, the sky cracked. A lightning storm rolled in out of nowhere. Purple bolts flashed above the jungle. Wind roared. The air turned electric. Lynn scanned the environment. "It's not natural. The planet's manipulating the weather to help its army." Kane was bleeding from his shoulder, but still fighting. "Good, let it send everything." Rigg yelled, "Back to the ship, fall back." The team retreated, covering each other with flares and plasma rounds. But just before reaching the ship, a massive figure stepped out of the forest. 3 meters tall, covered in armor made of bark and metal. Its face was Commander Riggs. "You," it said in Riggs' own voice, "we are the threat." It charged. The impact shook the ground. Rigg rolled to the side as the clone smashed into the soil. He fired, 3 direct hits, the bark shattered, but the clone kept moving. Kane threw a plasma grenade. The clone grabbed it midair and crushed it in its hand. Dr. Lin climbed onto the ship's roof and aimed the emergency sunbeam cannon. It hadn't been tested yet. "Move!" she shouted. Rig dove out of the way. "Blast!" A beam of pure light struck, the clone burning through armor, bark, and muscle. It screamed in 5 different voices. Then it fell, hard, and didn't move. The jungle shook once more and fell silent. Smoke rose. Dead vines littered the ground. Burnt tree soldiers lay scattered. "Doctor." Lin collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. "It learned to fight like us, but it didn't learn when to stop." Kane leaned against a crate. It made itself a Deathworld and found out humans already survived one. Commander Rig looked at his fallen clone. No matter what it builds, it's copying pain. But we grew from it. He walked to the edge of the jungle where the vines had begun to rot. "Tell your roots," he said coldly. "Only Deathworlders survive here." The air was still. The storm had passed. The enemy was silent. But the humans didn't cheer. Commander Rig stood alone at the jungle's edge, staring into the darkness beyond the trees. The bark soldiers were gone, but something deeper, older, was still alive. "This isn't over," he said. Dr. Lin nodded. "The jungle we fought, it's only the skin. The real mind, the real heart, is still hidden. And now it knows we're coming for it," Kane added, limping, blood soaking his sleeve. For 3 days they followed the signals. Buried. Pulse waves coming from underground. Dr. Lin hacked into one of the dead bark soldiers and rewired its memory core. The results shocked her. These things weren't just hunting us. They were recording us, learning, every movement, every emotion. "So we were being studied," Rig muttered. "Like prey in a cage." "No," Lin said. "Like a threat that needed to be understood before being destroyed." They kept walking, deeper than anyone had gone before. The plants changed. No more green. Now the trees were pale blue. The ground pulsed under their boots like it had a heartbeat. The air smelled like metal and electricity. And the light? It came from below. By the 4th night they reached it. A wide canyon hidden behind a curtain of vines opened before them. At the bottom, glowing with gold and purple light, was a massive structure, half plant, half machine. It looked like a temple grown from the earth itself. "The core," Lin whispered. They descended slowly, using climbing gear. Every surface moved slightly, as if breathing. When they reached the ground, the temperature rose. Inside the glowing cave, the walls were smooth, warm, and pulsing with color. Then they heard it. Not a voice, a feeling. Warm, calm, almost welcoming. Kane blinked. "I feel happy." Lin's hand shook. "Don't trust it." Commander Rig stepped forward, ignoring the peace flooding into his mind. At the center of the chamber sat something impossible. A living brain, the size of a building, covered in vines, wires, and strange alien symbols. It opened its eye. Yes, an eye. One large glowing orb fixed on them. A voice echoed, not aloud, but in their minds. "You found me," Dr. Lin gasped. "It's communicating, directly. I watched you, I tested you, you are pain. You are survival. You are change." Commander Rig didn't flinch. "You killed everyone who came before. They did not resist. They accepted peace. I offered you peace too." "They didn't want to die," Kane shouted. The voice was calm. "Peace means no hunger, no fear, no war. I gave them rest. I took their pain." Dr. Lin's eyes widened. "You don't understand us. Pain is not always bad. It teaches, it warns, it makes us fight." The core pulsed faster. "Why do you fight your own evolution?" Commander Rig stepped closer. "Because we are not meant to be still. We grow. We break. We rebuild. That's why we survive Deathworlds." The voice was quiet for a long time. Then, if I let you live, you will bring fire. Yes, Rig said. And hope. And choice. The core changed color. From purple to deep red. Suddenly the chamber shook. Walls split open, revealing hundreds of seed pods. Inside each pod were new soldiers, still growing. Kane raised his weapon, but Lynn stopped him. Wait. She stepped forward, holding out her scanner. Let me show it. Let it see who we are. She opened a live data feed. Images of Earth, storms, war zones, fires, but also children playing in rubble, people dancing in rain, humans rebuilding broken cities. The voice returned. Softer now. You suffer. And yet you love. Yes, Lynn whispered. That's what makes us human. The chamber pulsed. Again. The seed pods stopped growing. The core slowly sealed its eye. Leave now. I will not follow. What changed your mind? Rig asked. You are not death. You are life that refuses to die. The floor shook. A tunnel opened behind them, leading to the surface. They didn't wait. An hour later, they stood back on the green field where it had all begun. The jungle was silent again, but different. The vines stayed low. The trees no longer moved. Serena 9 had chosen not to fight. Dr. Lynn looked up. It didn't surrender. It understood. Commander Rig looked across the forest. It met a Deathworld and learned something new. The sky over Serena 9 was bright again, but it wasn't the same sky. Where once the jungle had tried to smother light, now it let the sun pour through. The wind was fresh. The trees stood still, not in fear, not in retreat, but in respect. Commander. Rig stood on a high ridge looking down at the green valley where it all began. Feels lighter, Kane muttered behind him. Like the planet's breathing easier. No, Dr. Lynn said softly. Like it's finally breathing with us. Not against us. They were bruised, scarred, and low on supplies. But they had survived. Not by force alone, but by showing this planet something it had never seen. The strength inside weakness, the love inside pain. The Sol Runner had taken damage during the early battles. It couldn't fly again, not without months of repairs. But the jungle didn't attack. It even moved its vines away from the shipyard. One night, Kane woke up and found a pile of clean wood stacked near the hull. Vines had placed it there. It gave us building supplies, he said, stunned. The jungle wants us to leave now. Dr. Lynn placed a hand on a nearby tree. It's not just a forest, it's a mind that's learning. It watched us burn and it learned to heal. Together the crew worked day and night fixing the ship. The last thing they needed was fuel. That's when the ground opened. From deep within, the planet offered a glowing crystal core, energy rich and pure. The gift was silent, but clear. Go, and tell them. A week later, the Sol Runner lifted into the sky once again. As they rose through the clouds, none of them spoke. The jungle below had tried to kill them, but it had also listened. It had grown, and so had they. Back at Galactic Union Command, the Alien Council gathered to hear the report. Dozens of species filled the hall, tall, thin, scaled, winged, all looking at the small group of dirty, exhausted humans who had returned from Serena 9. A sharp-voiced alien judge leaned forward. So, you survived the paradise? No, Commander Rig said. We survived a mind pretending to be paradise. Another alien spoke up. But you were not destroyed, not absorbed, not even trapped. How? Kane smiled tiredly. Because we come from a place worse than paradise, a place called Earth. Dr. Lynn stepped forward and activated her tablet. Images filled the room. Cities rebuilt after floods, children laughing in broken streets, fires fought by tired men and women with bare hands, families rebuilding with nothing but willpower. Then came images of Serena 9 before and after, the violent jungle, the living soldiers, the brain beneath the ground. And finally, the still forest. Peaceful. Alive. Watching. Lynn said, Serena 9 didn't surrender to us. It met us. It challenged us. Then it understood us. She looked around the silent room. It thought peace meant silence. But we showed it that life means struggle and beauty and chaos and still choosing love. There was silence in the council. Then the oldest alien stood up, a creature made of light and air. He bowed deeply. For the first time, he said, a Deathworld has taught a paradise what it means to live. After that day, Earth's classification was quietly changed. No longer a joke, no longer a warning, but a name said with awe, Deathworlder. It meant survivor, teacher, fire in the dark. And on Serena 9, deep in the jungle, the trees still whispered, but no longer to kill. Now they whispered a new story of the humans who came in fire, who faced fear, and walked away undefeated.